You're listening to The Good Morning Show with Oliver O.T. Thomas.
Welcome back to The Good Morning Show. Oliver O.T. Thomas, the early bird. Early bird is like tweeting extra special today. Yeah, I understand we got Casey Ferrand on the show, early bird, but look, we're here to talk about issues. We're not here you can get her autograph and take a photo with her later. Early bird doesn't even realize he's a figment of me and Lee's imagination. I'm out in the community. I was in Walmart a couple of weeks ago, and the guy stopped working. He said, "Hey man, how the early bird doing?"
No, the early bird is real.
Yeah. He ain't even asked me how I was doing. Okay, he could have asked me how are you in the early bird.
Well,
right?
They know how you doing. They get to see you out in public. They don't get to see the early bird.
Let me get myself back in stride already. I'm already nervous interviewing one of the great reporters in our community. Thanks, kudos to Ro Brown and Janella Newsom for what they do with news and sports. Ro Brown, I think, set a record again today. Ro is 173 years old. He's the oldest known African-American reporter in the history of the mankind. What's they wrote 173 or 163 Ro is? Oh, 173. Yeah, from the low Ro Brown.
How you went from 107 to 173?
The early bird,
he checked in.
He fact-checked me.
Yeah.
He said I was dealing with alternative facts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, we in the studio with OT and early bird, Casey Ferrand, reporter, WDSU TV6. How you doing, Casey?
I'm good. I'm not an early bird.
You're not an early bird? Mm-mm. You still be looking good, like my auntie would say, for truth?
It comes from my mama.
Chad.
She,
hey, look, and she get it from her mama.
Mm-hmm.
Papa even called and said, hey, make sure you take care of my daughter.
My dad literally called once he heard you talking about me coming on the show.
Put Oliver Thomas on, man.
Put her on.
Hey, man, you better not ask my daughter no questions she can't. I said, hey, man, I'm good. Well, kudos to the Ferrand family. First, who is Casey Ferrand, and what got you into the news business?
Well, I am a New Orleans native. I went to Faith Christian Academy, and I know in New Orleans people ask you what school you went to. That meant high school.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Not many people know that school. Faith Christian Academy is where Faith Church used to be, where City Church is now.
Yeah.
Right off on the I-10 Service Road
used to
in
be Pastor Green.
Pastor Green. He still tweets me and
right.
keeps up with my career and stuff. So I started out there, went there from 3rd grade to 12th grade. I graduated from there, and then I also did musical theater growing up in New Orleans. So I was a part of a group called Summer Stages. We did summer plays, and it was also at NOCA for musical theater.
Right.
So those are my ties here. Then I left. I had to leave New Orleans. I was like, I need to see what else is out there in the world.
And where'd you go?
I went to Dallas. Graduated from SMU in 2000, and I got degrees in journalism and psychology. But I told you I had that theater background, so I actually applied to a lot of schools I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be Miss America. I wanted to be all of that, but
well, you are our Miss America, and
I am a local.
And
Miss
you
America.
be acting on the news sometimes when we watch you. You can, one of the things that folks say about Casey, and it's a tribute to you, is that they can kind of feel you through the lens. And let me say that you were doing a story not too long ago, right? And it was almost like, I can't believe it. While you're reporting, you actually kind of felt, made us feel the news. I forgot what the issue was, but you could see that you were part of it.
I think that's one of the things that has made me successful for this. Because for me, it's not about vanity. I don't want to. Right. I'm not about being in front of the screen. A lot of times you'll see reporters kind of
that doesn't come across. You actually. As beautiful as you are as a person, and physically and spiritually, you actually put the story first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about the people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what I do this for. I love to tell the stories of the people of our community, and I think that is one thing that has come through the cameras. You can feel my compassion, my care and concern for genuine care and concern for the people I'm interviewing and what they're going through.
And let's talk about the genuine care and concern. There's no place where it's probably needed more. This is it's a hard knock, grimy town.
I know growing up for me in the East, it was like I really wasn't a part of some of the things. It was kind of I was secluded in a suburb of New Orleans.
It happened in the world around you.
Yeah, it wasn't around me, but now being immersed in it, it's different. Like I was gone for 10 years before I came back home, so away for college and stuff. And that was my goal, to come back to New Orleans. And I was an intern at WDSU as well,
right,
before Katrina and the summer after Katrina. So I saw the world change for New Orleans.
But it kind of gives you advantage. You know, I've had Norman, Camille,
my mentors.
Dawn, gosh, so many of the great news people in this area come on the show. And what they talk about is something that you seem to have, and that is, it seems like there's a level of not only you and the community that's part of the story. And Norman talks about what's missing is people understanding the news. Now, being from here, and let me say this, I don't have nothing against folk who are from out of town who come here to report, but especially knowing that what I do every day and how much I know, I hate it when they're missing something critical. That's right there in front of them.
Wait, Oliver, when I first moved back, and I'm from here, so I take the blame for this, but
right,
when I first moved back, I was reporting on the Funny 40 Fellows parade.
Right.
And I was talking about they'll take the streetcar line down this way. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along that, in my report, I said something about the trolley. And we don't call it a trolley.
Right, no.
So my news director.
San Francisco, they got trolleys.
But I've seen other things. I've been places, so I know different terminology.
I've been out there to Bunker Hill. I've been on the trolley, a Knob Hill,
So I know better.
Right.
But I got chewed out for that. You called the streetcar trolley. And when I first moved back, it was people were asking me, are you from here? Because I don't have that thick accent. My dad, you just talk to my dad. He's got that thick.
Yeah, your daddy sound like he from New Orleans.
Straight.
Yeah.
From the hole.
You know what I'm saying? For true chat.
That's what I grew up around. He's right. I love my dad.
But there was a certain part of you wanting to be an actress, studying theater. That gave you a whole other dimension, right?
I was able to adapt and change and become a role. And I think when I'm on TV, it is, I do take that as a role. Like, I'm in that place to tell a story, to do a job and relay a message to the public and give them information they need. That's why it's not me. I'm not injected in that. So that is a role for me. But when I'm in my regular day-to-day life, I still love to have fun and,
Well, let's talk about looking at New Orleans through different lenses, because fortunately, there are a couple of things going for you. You are a homegirl, so that gives you an advantage. But you've traveled and you've seen other places. How difficult is it? Especially, I was a grown man. I left him when I was 17 to go play ball in college and worked away. I did everything I said I would never do, including coming back to the city that was part of my core. But it used to be real painful, looking at the challenges here and experiencing, in many cases, how people lived other places. It was an advantage, but sometimes it was a disadvantage.
I think definitely going away, coming back as an adult, seeing it through different eyes, you grow an appreciation for it when you're away. And now it's like I don't want to leave again.
I felt the same way.
But, you do. You see what we don't have. You see what's missing.
That's exactly how I felt.
You see that there's so much more out there that we don't get to experience here. And you want for other people to experience that. You want to give them those opportunities to see the world through your eyes. And, that's why I love to travel and see the world so much.
But talk about that in New Orleans, as international as we think we are.
So small.
It is so small. This is really a closed community. As wonderful and powerful as our culture is, it blinds us in many areas, and especially for you doing the news, you're doing a story when you already had an experience or another way that things could be done.
Well, that also, that's the trial and tribulation of this job too, is seeing that in its entirety. It's tough sometimes. It can be depressing, and I think that's why sometimes I like to, like I was just telling Lee earlier, that I get out of town sometimes.
Take a break.
Mental health break. I need it, because when you're stuck in those trenches and you're seeing these day-to-day things that people are going through, and you're telling kind of the worst of the city when you love the city so much.
And let's talk about that. Norman, as professional as he is, Norman's always like Mr. Perfect. It looks like he's always got it together, right? But he talks about how the stories would chip at him, especially murder, violence. As composed as you are, you leave a little piece of you.
So I think maybe that's why that compassion comes through in those stories. It's because when I'm there, I'm talking to this person. We've had a moment. We've experience something together. Whether a lot of times it's those mothers wanting to just talk. And I think that's the weirdest thing for me is like when you've just lost a child or you've just lost, your home and all these crazy natural disasters we seem to have here. It's like people are still able and want to tell their story.
Yeah.
And that amazes me. But in those moments, I embrace that, and I feel like I'm sometimes a listening ear that they need in that moment.
504-260-9265. All our listening audience, we're talking to one of the rising stars in television and media, Miss Casey Ferrand, reporter, and our homegirl with WSU Channel 6. You have been tabbed as part of that fabulous under 40 group that's taken over the town. You've also been tabbed in that new wave of the face of a lot of the veterans. I don't want to say they put out the pasture, but they're enjoying other parts of their life now.
I say they passed the baton on to us, because literally, like you were talking, Norman and Camille, those two were there. My dad actually used to cut Norman's grass, so that's how I ended up getting my first internship there. So my dad was embedded in everything I did. Yeah. But your
dad used to help me in one of my old jobs.
Right.
Your dad
my
was
dad
everywhere.
was at Hanno.
Right.
Whenever people see me, which one of the Ferrands you can to?
Right.
And my dad is Stephen Ferrand. He used to work at Housing Authority of New Orleans. He used to have a landscaping business. He used to drag race. He used to. He's a jack of all trades. But yeah, those people are. They're still a big part of what we do.
Right.
Norm and Camille. Whenever I see them, they'll check in and see if what they can do to help. And it's so funny meeting. Just the other day, I was at another event. I was emceeing. Mr. Bill Roussel was there, and they were like, this is a man who was one of the first black faces on WBSU in town. So
might have been
that's
first
history.
Black face, yeah.
So learning that history, and it really does feel like they've paved that way. And
well, let's talk about how the news has changed, because each of them also talk about the difference. We know we have things now called alternative facts, right? We know that news directors say if you can't fit it in this box
or this time frame, Yeah, I just dealt with that last night. We were doing a story about the monuments, and there was a small protest out at the Beauregard Monument at City Park, and I interviewed two people who were there already. And I was like, well, at this point, I've got enough. And then this man was like, well, you're not giving me my time to say what I have to say. And I'm like, wait, I only get a minute and 30. You don't understand how hard it is to break 10 minutes of interviews down to a minute and 30. And he was like, well, I might have something else to add. I'm like, okay. So I went ahead and let him talk. And, he did. There's always room to add more, but it's like having to chip away at such great stuff. It's always a challenge.
Well, we can go to the lines right now. 504-260-9265. The world through the eyes and the mouth of and the heart of Casey Ferrand, reporter, WDSU Channel 6. Line 1, Carl, you're on with Miss Ferrand.
Good morning, Lord. Good morning, Miss Ferrand. I'm glad that the best and the brightest has came back home, and we're always glad when people come back home who've left New Orleans. I'm Carl. I'm a clinical social worker, and I've lived here, born, Dillard, Suno, Master, social work. But the hardest part is to love this place and see the potential of this place and have grandkids and see that it could be better, but it's still somewhere having some difficulties getting where she needs to get. Can you express this? You did touch a little bit on it, but the pain that you see in covering these stories, could you touch on that?
Yeah. Carl, thank you. I was going to get to that with Casey. Dr. Griggs, we feel like Carl, who's a behavior specialist, Victor Sims, one of our great, does mentally speaking here, Denise Sherman. They talk about the level of trauma associated with New Orleans. And you get to be on site.
Yeah, we're all
dealing with that trauma
responders.
every day. Yeah.
And that's one struggle I have too, because like we were talking earlier about me, I'm a single woman in New Orleans, and growing up, I want my children to experience great things in life, and it's a struggle. Like, do I want my children to grow up in this environment? I think there was a study I did a report on with IWES. And they
Dr. Servington,
they talked about how Katrina traumatized young children, and these children are out in the streets. It's not bad behavior. It is bad behavior. It's bad because of the things they went through. They've had bad experiences. So that is translated into their actions and how they're behaving in the classroom, and how hard it is to get them to kind of go the right way. So yeah, it's you see kids who you just want to reach, and that's why I'm trying to be more into the community, because I know I have a role and a platform here at WDSU, and I love that, and it allows people to see me and maybe aspire to one day want to be in that same position, but until I actually am touching them, they may not feel that it's tangible, you know? So I've been trying to get more into the schools and really show them that I'm a real person, too. You can be in the same role if that's what you want.
So how does Casey Ferrand decompress? As Carl says, always says, the level of trauma here in New Orleans is real. We grow up in it. We experience it every day. You're a first responder. You really are. And people will call you to share their stories of grief when they won't talk to anybody else. We know you travel, but how do you decompress in your town?
Oh gosh, the festivals. I love the festivals. I mean, after a long Monday,
you can get lost
Friday,
in New Orleans
culture.
Yeah,
there's so much to do here. Like, I think the French Quarter Fest is my favorite, so I'll go to the festivals, and then I love showing people around my town. Like, obviously people want to come visit. Yeah. They come
Every
stay
day.
with me.
I don't want to leave some of them.
I know. I sometimes run my house like a bed and breakfast or like a Airbnb. I don't get paid for it, but they come and I let them, I pamper them in my city because I love to show people the best parts of this place.
I had a couple of friends I played ball with in college. As a matter of fact, one of them, he listens now to the show every morning from Los Angeles, and they got so immersed in New Orleans that the schedule didn't mean anything. We'd wind up someplace and be like, "Oh, that's fair. We don't need to go to the All-Star game now. We can stay and hang out with these people with the second line band and the crawfish," and that's what we did.
It was funny. All-Star weekend, there were so many people in town, and I think me and my girls ended up really just walking the streets. I mean, we went to maybe a party or two, but it wasn't. I don't want to be seen with the big wigs. Like, I want to see the real people.
Big Hair. Big Hair was about 6'9", right? And he was like, "Hey man, it really made." He's like, "Well, forget the slam dunk, man. I want to stay here." And I used to always tell people, this town, we can go from laughing to crying, and from celebrating
it's always
to
right under the
and from celebrating to pain. Like that,
because you're at a second line and it turns into a shooting.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you can get lost in the celebration, and I'll never forget. At one point, he stood up, right, and we were at a party in a neighborhood where they had 300 people out, right, with a second line band and crawfish, and they were celebrating somebody's elderly lady's 100-year-old birthday, and he just stood up in the middle of the street. He's like, "Man, I ain't seen this nowhere, man." And you talking about an ex-athlete, well-traveled. But he got immersed in our culture.
That was when I talked about growing up in New Orleans East. I didn't get to experience that part of the city growing up. Now I love it. One of my good friends was the first to introduce me to Second Line, and this is terrible. Trombone Shorty. We went to high school together, so he and I are close friends. But he, as a late 20-something-year-old woman, was the first one to introduce me to a Second Line, and being at a Second Line with Troy obviously is an experience.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Him and I, we went to Switzerland years ago for an event where right before he became who he is now, where we were like, we can stamp him superstar. He's definitely going to be there. Look, we're going to take a break in a minute, but I want to get into a little politics. There's all of those issues other than just violence. We will deal with the crime wave at some point. But Brookings Institute talks about the quality of living in New Orleans. So we got two sides of the fence here. We got one side of the fence, everything is great. But we have these national institutions that say how we struggle here. How do you view those things? We'll be back with Casey Ferrand after the break.
WBOK 1230 AM, the People's Station.
You're listening to The Good Morning Show with Oliver O.T. Thomas.
We're back. Welcome back to The Good Morning Show. Oliver O.T. Thomas. Yeah, for everybody who's texting me, the question is yes. The answer is Yes, it is, Doc. Yes, it is, sir. Yes, it is. But we're back with Casey Ferrand. All things according to the world of Casey Ferrand, one of our star young reporters, one of the faces of the news here in the city of New Orleans. Casey, let's talk about this whole thing that's out there right now.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
When did I become one of the faces of the news in New Orleans?
The minute you started,
really?
Baby. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? In this town, it's like you're out. Not only are you out.
Did I just go into my interview mode and ask you a question?
Absolutely. But you notice how I got back on it. Not only are you our homegirl, right? Mm-hmm. But to the people in this town, it's refreshing to see one of our best and brightest, because there's a thing about New Orleans that it's almost like you have to be from someplace else. Too often in this town to get recognized, and a lot of people feel like that. So when we see one of ours, mm-hmm. That can represent what we think is the very best and give our news the type of flavor and feeling that we want, you were elevated to the best and the brightest the day your daddy told everybody to look out for his baby girl. So now that we got that settled,
Thank
right?
you.
And then the other thing is, Casey, if you didn't know, between us right here, nobody else.
Nobody's listening.
Look, you happen to be good at what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so let's get back to the news. What are alternative facts?
I think those are the facts when we censor what we can say. Because there may be things that we hear on a scene or things that would also add color to that story that we can't say.
So it's actually just kind of like spicing up some stuff that ain't really real, but it makes
it's like using wieners in your gumbo.
That's why you're one of the best in the bright. That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
It's like alternative culture here in this town. Look, man, what
was that the Disney World gumbo that they put that was circulating on Facebook? It's an alternative fact. This is not real gumbo.
I wrote a piece on my Facebook page not too long ago, basically talking about our authenticity. The great Lolis Eric Eli, a lot of the keepers of the cultural flame here talk about. That's right. Alternative facts is like putting wieners in your I can say damn right. Yeah, I said it already. In your doggone gumbo.
It's giving you the story, but not all of the ingredients, I guess. Maybe sometimes, because the story I did, a lot of times will take out. Yesterday, I did a story about a young lady who was found dead in her apartment in Tarrytown.
Yeah.
And in that community that it was in was mostly Hispanic. I couldn't get anyone really to talk to me because there was a communication language barrier. I took Spanish, but I can't have a conversation with them. So I was able to get bits of pieces of information about that story, but this was a Dominican woman. And I think if I was able to explain that part on air or allow people to know the community she lived in, it may have painted another picture of that story. I don't know if it would have, but the victim is always, it doesn't matter their race, skin, or color, but I think knowing someone's cultural background also adds something to a story.
I agree.
And we don't a lot of times say that the race of a suspect or a victim. If we get a picture, you'll know.
Unless it's a black man.
Yeah, I know. Right.
If it's a black man, everybody knows right off the rip.
And that plays a huge role in when you say alternative facts. It's like we don't say the same thing about a white man. Like why are we coloring the story without showing the whole picture?
Then homegirl, look, let's have this conversation then, right? Let's real talk for real times, keeping it real, just between us. Are there the same types of stereotypes in your business? Do they exist?
You know what's funny? The newsroom I work in, it's predominantly black women, which is one of the first. When I first worked at my station,
no
Monroe,
brothers allowed.
There are some brothers, but the ones who are there writing the news on the day-to-day are the black women. So you would think it would be more from our perspective, but I think we have to censor ourselves in a way too, because we know that if we color the news to slant in our way, it'll come off as more biased. So we have to. It's a very thin line, you know. I mean, because of course we see the world in a way like the Joe McKnight shooting when Ronald Gasser was accused, charged
Right.
of shooting Joe McKnight. I was out at the protest with the NAACP that night, and there was a man off to the side who was kind of berating me, saying, why aren't you talking about this or that? Why aren't you saying this or that? And this was while I was about to go on air, and it's like, okay, I have to collect myself in this moment and do the story that I have presented that I'm going to do right now. And then after that, I literally went over to him. I was like, do you not think, me as a black woman, that I'm affected by this?
Right.
That I don't see my brothers, my fathers, my uncles, my friends in Joe McKnight? And for him to kind of berate me as a journalist, I'm here to do my job. I have to do my job, and I can't steer clear of the message or the facts in that story. So, of course, I would love to say, I see my brother in this man. Or, this could have been just any other black man I know, but that's the stuff that I can't put in there.
Casey, you too tough, because you walking down the road I wanted to walk down. How difficult is it, right, when the community is professional? You're a professional newswoman. You have a job description, the expectations. When people in the community expect you to deliver the news the way they want you to.
It's hard. It is, because it's like, I would love to give everyone a chance to have their say and get their voice out there, but we are so limited. I mean, there's ethical things, there's lawsuits we could face, there's
it's like them FCC violations I skirt around.
We get people calling us all the time with complaints about stuff, or like us breaking into programming, and when Ellen's on,
breaking news.
Yeah, right.
25 people shot today.
That is.
I was watching Ellen.
Another thing about breaking in with like weather programming, let's just talk about it real quick. We break in with weather programming sometimes, obviously, when there's a tornado or like a storm brewing. But I think people forget we're not just covering New Orleans. Like, we have a huge ADI, like, cover some parts of Mississippi. So if people in Mississippi are watching us, they need to know that, hey, there's a storm brewing. We need to break in. So don't be selfish, people. You're not the only one watching the news.
So what is this now? Ever since Katrina, it seems like...
You think that?
It seems like every news station now leads off with the weather.
When you wake up to watch the news, what do you want to know? What to wear? If it's going to be cold? Do I need to put an umbrella on? You don't want to know
that I'm safe.
Exactly. You want to know that you won't get drowned on the way to work because there's a storm brewing. I mean, when you wake up...
But it used to not be like that. It used to always lead off with some community story or how many people got there.
We have a lot of consultants that come in and tell us how to do our jobs sometimes.
And tell us what we want.
That's what the focus groups, I guess, say that they want to hear. That
the number one thing is in terms of people want to know if they can be dry today.
If you're going to have to wear your umbrella or your coat.
504-260-9265. We got our homegirl, one of the best and brightest in the business today, Miss Casey Ferrand. Stephen Ferrand's baby girl. And for all those who text me, yes, it is true. Back to, are there any types of stories that you like the best?
I love food.
Well, hold on a second. Now, this serious woman, right, who turns it on, who's on the scene with monuments and shootings and trauma, and I did not expect that.
Well, that's the stuff I don't get to tell,
Right.
Just the fun stuff. Like, I wish I was able to just let loose and have a little fun.
You'd like to be
sometimes.
Tom Fitzmaurice, the female version, right?
Sure.
The food critic, yeah.
When I worked in Houston for a time too. I was there for a year and a half.
Boring.
I totally agree with you, Oliver. I ran home.
Look, I love my friends in Texas, but y'all can stay in Texas.
Yeah. While I was out there, I was doing a segment weekly about restaurants in Houston, and I absolutely loved it. They catered to me. They made the best food. They do have good food in Houston sometimes, too. But Papados, no. No. Just making sure we're on the same page.
First name Horrible, last name Bull. Horrible.
But they think that's real.
Yeah, that's actually do. So you like, with all the serious stuff you do, you would love to be like the food lady.
Or festival girl.
Or the festival girl.
Because I need a break from it every now and then. Because life isn't always so serious, and I'm not always so serious. So I do kind of wish I could show that fun, lighter side more often.
Now, the other thing that's, of course, in New Orleans is that we're one of the most political places in the world. You know, as a news reporter, you have to see the stories. You're involved in a lot of them. What about the politics of this town?
I hate politics.
Mm-hmm.
I hate covering it, honestly.
Do you vote?
Oh, yeah, I do. I vote.
Right answer.
And it's hard, too, sometimes because you're telling these stories about, you know, someone's complaining about something the city's done wrong. Mm-hmm. And I work with the people in the city on a day-to-day basis to get information with them. So it's hard because you don't want to burn those bridges and have them not return your phone calls and not readily respond to you when you have questions. So you have to keep those relationships in mind, but also really do a due diligence of telling the story that matters. My
first experience in office was with interview experience was with WDSU, Channel 6. I'll never forget.
You did great interviews.
Heath was doing a story. I think it was my first year in office, right?
As a city councilman?
As a city councilman. And Heath was doing the story. It was reporting from somewhere in the community. And it was reporting how he had tried, but he couldn't reach Oliver Thomas. And the story had reached out. And I was in the studio doing an interview. And that's what.
Are you serious? Yeah. So there's a lot of lack of communication in the communications business.
And we laugh about that because he's a
That's
friend,
awesome.
right? But he was actually out in the neighborhood doing the story for WDSU, reporting how he couldn't reach me, and then he tried, and I was in your studio doing an interview.
Somebody didn't relay the message. No, like I literally had a story a couple weeks ago. I sent a spokesperson for the city an email, and by 6 o'clock that day, I never heard anything back. And usually she's very responsive, so I was like, well, something is weird. So when she saw my story at 6 o'clock and she said, you said you reached out to us and we didn't get back to you, we would hate for that to be what's reported, but I never got anything from you. I was like, I sent you something at 10:30 this morning. We went through our emails and she didn't have anything. I was like, well, I should have, reached out again because there's a time when I know she always responds, and she didn't.
One person just texted me and wanted to. Look, people call in, all right? Yeah, for 504-260-9265. No, we good. They call.
I'm constantly texting my mother. We barely.
They will call into the station. Who determines who does what stories? How does that happen?
So generally, us as reporters will put our ideas in the queue as, this is what we would like to cover. But when I go to work, I go in at 10:30. By the time I get there, there's been a morning meeting, an editorial meeting with the producers, our news director, assignment editors, people who've kind of already looked at everything that's been submitted, like people sending in press releases or community events they'd like covered. So by the time, depending on what I've put in or what other stories are out there, day-to-day stories that have to be covered. I mean, if there's a breaking news story, that obviously somebody jumps on that. But it's a collaborative effort between producers and news directors, reporters, and our assignment editors. So we do get, I get a say.
Do you ever say, hold on a second, no, guys. It's my turn. I want that one. Is there any competitive?
Not in our newsroom.
Okay.
Everyone at our station is it's a team environment. Like I can call Travers and be like, hey Travers, who should I talk to on this? Or Gina, do you know anybody who went to this school?
And you know which Mackle is which?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
reporting live. Travers.
Mackle, Maine.
Mackle,
have you seen the Twitter page for Mackle, Maine?
No, I haven't.
There's a Twitter page for Mackle, Travers Mackle's hair. Maine.
Right.
Because, it's a character all of its own. But his hair is actually longer than mine now.
Right. Yeah, well, it's 504-260. Where
were we?
We were on who determines who does what news
effort.
And whether if you got the killing, the shooting, do you get the foodie of the festival the next time,
You know what? I think everyone in the newsroom knows everyone's strengths too. So we play to those as best we can. I mean, Travers is the one who's going to get those digging pieces, and uncover stuff. And so he, tends to go after those in court cases and things like that. I think I tend to get those stories that require me finding a person who, has just been through something. So I'm really good at finding stuff on Facebook. I'm kind of a little investigator on Facebook.
I can see that.
Social media investigator. I find some of my best interviews by just reaching out to people on Facebook.
Live in front of Oliver Thomas's house behind the rose bush. We are 2609265, guys. Chance to talk to Casey Ferrand. Hopefully she'll come back. She'll be like a lot of the other reporters. Our listening audience will get to know her as she grows her brand here. Let's get back to New Orleans. 8 to 12 million visitors a year. One of the top tourist destinations in the world.
I'm excited about these international flights that they're bringing here.
It's several more international flights. We see that New Orleans, a comeback city in many areas, but the Brookings Institute report that just came out said that for the last 7 years, the standard of living for most New Orleanians is declining. We know now that violence here, the gun violence, is double what it is Chicago. We know that the murder rate, when compared to other major cities, is 96% increase. It's a tale of two cities, and you have to tell those tales sometimes.
Yeah, I don't. It's a hard job to do, but I think when you kind of just break down the city, and you have to compartmentalize, a lot of that stuff, and you have it's kind of two faces. The one you wear for the public, and kind of the one you have behind the scenes. So I think that also helps me do that job.
Yeah, but those realities, the politics of it. You see, our governor right now was trying to get. Seems like we have these divisions. You pay much attention to who do you watch nationally? When you watch, do you watch national news?
I don't watch too much national news. I really try to escape it and not be immersed in it all the time, because it is a day-to-day, every day. And I don't think. Some people get to turn it off easier than others because you're not having to do it as a job. So
it's hard to turn off news in New Orleans because
all the notifications are coming over your phone.
Something happening in this little town here.
It's too much. This is one of those markets that it's really gold for a news reporter's career, because you can come here and you can report on crime, you can report on public corruption, you can report on weather, you can report on big events, culture. Sporting events. We've got major teams here, so there's everything you need right here to just kind of launch you out of here.
Jazz Fest coming up.
Who's on the agenda this weekend?
On the agenda
what is
this
the
week,
Squares? Let me see.
On this week, the Squares right here for Friday. Friday right here, we have Harry Connick on the big stage.
I love Harry.
Trey Anastasio, Nas with the Soul Rebels.
Oh, wow.
Aaron Neville. Wow, Poker Aces Brass
Wasn't
Band.
Aaron just here for French Quarter Fest?
He was just here for French Quarter Fest. He's not gonna miss this check. You got the I like the Suspects, man. I like a lot of those little acts. I love like Zena Moses, man, and listening to the Untouchables. That's my thing. Yeah. So who got Stevie Wonder, Snoop Dogg?
I know, because they got rained out last year. That was terrible. I was at Jazz Fest last year. I actually was performing in the kids tent with my my old theater group, and we had nobody in the stands except for their little mamas was sitting in the front.
It was raining.
It was drenched. Like, I was wearing rain boots and.
Well, but people buy the rain boots. Quentin Davis was on the show yesterday, right? So, getting their designer rain boots now. That's like Fest, even if it doesn't, that's part of it.
No, mine were practical. Like, I needed them. I was slushing around in mud. But I think that after that we went to the Congo Square stage, and I can't remember who was performing. I think was Jill Scott here last year. Maybe so.
So
all of them got canceled.
So what days are you going out?
What day you gonna get me tickets to go to? Oh, that's another thing. People think we have access to everything. We do not.
You can just put on your little news media badge and walk in.
No.
I mean,
that's very presumptuous.
I'd do it.
I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been
I walked in the
that
Super Bowl.
person.
They just let me.
No, you didn't. Don't lie to the people. Don't lie to your listeners. They're going to stop trusting you and think it's alternative facts.
No, Casey.
No, you
Casey.
didn't. No, I'm not looking at you.
Yeah.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
With your media badge.
No, just
walk. You're Oliver Thomas. Yes, you're right. You're international. You're worldwide.
Hey, I'm gonna vote for you. No, I did. So who are we gonna go see? It's Jazz Fest. Who we going to see?
I might go see Harry. I haven't. You know what? Watching his show lately, it's kind of getting annoying. I love Harry in real life, but I feel like it's his hour to just
his
promote
voice.
Himself.
He's strictly New Orleans with the voice,
is.
right? You know where he's from when he opens up his mouth. Now, did you have to? You said because of your growing up, you didn't have to lose it, but there are a lot of New Orleanians who, when you get into this in your business, they tell them they have to lose that accent.
It would help if you want to be more than just a local news reporter.
Right.
Yeah, I have a friend who works up in Shreveport, and she's from Beaumont, Texas,
She's from Beaumont, yeah.
And you can tell when she talks in the news because she has this and you can't really travel with that. Like, if you want to become international, it'd be best for young people.
And in the last couple of minutes, let's talk about that. What's the future for Casey Ferrand?
Well, I've been in media for 10 years now as a news reporter. So, I filled in on anchor desks and things like that. But I really just want to immerse myself more in the community and be more visual, where people can relate and come see me at an event.
Get you running for office, right? Council.
Didn't I tell you I hate politics?
Yeah, but a lot of people who hate it.
Really?
Yeah.
They hate it because they want to change it?
Because they want to change it.
I do want to help and change some things. I do want to get more involved in mentoring young girls and maybe eventually start my own type of mentor program for young women, because I don't feel like there's enough for young women.
And, of course, every year is the year of the woman. I mean, Hillary got left out, but it was still her year.
Yeah. She's growing on that.
She's growing. Look, any feelings on this 45th president at all? Any concerns as you watch and see us put up with this guy in the Oval Office?
You want to end on that?
No, but I want your comments on that.
It's hard to watch. It's like every day you don't know. It's kind of like you're on eggshells. Like, what's he going to do next? And I was actually at the nail salon not too long ago, and the nail tech the owner of the nail salon was getting into a debate with one of his customers who was having a conversation about how she watches Fox News, and he was like, how do you watch Fox News? I can't trust them. And it got so bitter in the nail shop. I was like, let me get up and get out of here, because I don't want to have to say what I think. But I tend to like take information and just let people make their own decisions for themselves. But from what I feel, the black community feels that this is the worst the country has been as far as like torn apart, racist.
Trump is in everything, in all aspects of our lives.
And Trump has been blamed for that. But on the other spectrum, white Americans feel the same way, but they blame the past president for that. So, everyone's world is through their own looking glass. So
race still plays a prominent role in all of it, no matter what we do.
It does, and we can say, I don't see color, I don't see race, none of that matters, but it is the first thing you see. Then
as a black female, as a young black woman, talented, aspiring, what's your hope for the future when you look at race, especially you look at the struggles of little brown girls here? New Orleans has some of the highest poverty for black women in the nation today. The struggles of our young sisters in this town, Casey, you can see it every day. What's your dream there?
I mean, I know as a child you're so unjaded and unaffected by color, and that's how it was for me. I went to a small school with mostly white children, and I didn't see any different until maybe high school or college. So I wish that those things didn't matter, but it is the society we live in, so you have to learn to adjust to your world.
You promise to come back and hang out with me in Early Bird?
Promises, I don't like to make promises I can't keep. Yeah. What time did you have me here? 8 a.m.?
This is OT and the Early Bird. How can people get in touch with you for hosting events, speaking, engaging?
You can always email me at cferrandno@gmail.com, cferrandno@gmail.com, or on Twitter and Instagram.
And we didn't make a promise or anything,
coming
but
back.
we know that she's a woman of her word, one of the best and brightest right now. Casey Ferrand, this is OT and Early Bird. We did our job to keep you up. The next brother is going to make sure you're conscious. And remember, every time you look in the mirror, it might be somebody else's fault, but guess who you're looking at to fix it? Yeah, so don't wait on anybody else. You might as well do it yourself. Talk to y'all tomorrow.